In this video, I'm going to look at problems 41 through 44 on the Chapter 2 exam review. So in this section, we're to find the midpoint of the line segment with the given endpoints. So in 41, the endpoints are negative 5, 5 and 3, 3. So we have these two ordered pairs, and there's a line that goes between them, or a line segment, and we want to find the middle of that. So we can do that by this little expression, the average of the x's and the average of the y's, and that's a new ordered pair. So we'll add up the x coordinates and cut them in half, and we'll add up the y coordinates and cut them in half. When we do that, we'll have negative 5 plus 3 divided by 2, and then 5 plus 3 divided by 2. And that'll be our midpoint. So we can use this letter M just to denote that it's the midpoint, but you don't have to. Really, we're just looking for an ordered pair. So negative 5 plus 3 will be negative 2 over 2, and then 5 plus 3 is 8 over 2. So when we cut them both in half, negative 2 over 2 will be negative 1, and then 8 over 2 will be 4. So the ordered pair that is the midpoint between these 2 points is negative 1, 4. In number 42, we have 2 more points, 4, negative 3, and negative 2, 0. And here again is this expression we can use for the midpoint. So we're going to take our x's and add them up. So 4 plus a negative 2, and then cut that in half. And then our y's, so negative 3 plus 0, and cut that in half. Okay, so when we do that, 4 plus a negative 2 will just be 2. I'm going to divide that in half. And then negative 3 over 2. Okay, well 2 over 2 is 1, which is really nice, but negative 3 over 2 can't reduce. We can make it a decimal, I guess, but we'll just leave it as a fraction just like that. So our midpoint is 1 and negative 3 halves. In number 43, it appears that our endpoints have fractions for their coordinates, so this one might be a little more difficult because we might have to get common denominators, but no big thing. So our midpoint will be, add up our x's, which is 8 thirds plus a negative 11 sixths. We're going to cut that in half. And then add up our y's, negative 8 thirds plus 9 halves, and cut that in half. Okay, so when we get common denominators, we see our denominators are 3 and 6, so our common denominator looks like 6. So multiply that by 2, multiply that by 2. So it'll be 16 minus 11 over 6, and then the whole thing is cut in half. And when I get common denominators here, these guys will be times 2 times 2, and these guys will be times 3 times 3, because again their common denominator will be 6. So we'll have negative 16 plus 27 over 6, and all that cut in half. Okay, so 16 minus 11 will be 5 sixths, and then that'll be cut in half. And then negative 16 plus 27 is 11 sixths, and that'll be cut in half. So something that we discussed in class a bit is that in order to take this fraction and cut it in half, you can do one of two things. You can either half the numerator, or you can double the denominator. Well, in this case, we cannot half the numerator because the numerator is odd, and if we were to half it, we would get 2.5 over 6. But that doesn't help us out because we can't mix decimals and fractions. So instead of cutting the numerator in half, let's double the denominator. So we'll get 5 twelfths for my x-coordinate. And the same goes here. This numerator, we cannot cut it in half, otherwise we'd have 5.5 over 6, which we can't mix the decimals with the fractions. So 11 over 6 will double the denominator, so 11 over 12. And that will be the midpoint for those two initial endpoints. So number 43 is the ordered pair 5 twelfths and 11 twelfths. And the final problem in this set is going to be 44. So we have two endpoints here, and this one looks kind of nasty, but we'll do it anyway. So 1/3 negative 2, and then we have negative 1 and 5 sixths, negative 2 and 3 fourths. So the first thing we need to do with this ordered pair is to get them into improper fractions. So we'll take 6 times 1 is 6, plus 5 is 11. So this one is negative 11 sixths. And then 4 times 2 is 8, plus 3 is 11, so this one is 11 fourths. So that ordered pair now, it's a little easier to manage that way. In this one, I think we'll just put this 2 over 1, since I know they're all going to be fractions anyway. So my midpoint is going to be my x's added up, so 1/3 plus a negative 11/6, so we'll just say minus 11/6, and cut that in half. And then we have this negative 2 over 1 minus 11 over 4, and then that's cut in half. So on our x's, it looks like our common denominator will be 6, so I need to take times 2 times 2. So our midpoint will be this 1 times 2 is 2 minus 11. So 2 minus 11 is negative 9/6, cut in half. And that, the midpoint anyway, the x-coordinate of that midpoint. And then common denominators over here will be 4, so multiply that by 4 and multiply that by 4. So we have a negative 8 minus 11 will be negative 19 over 4, and then we'll chop that in half as well. Okay? So in both of these, look, the numerators are odd, so we cannot half the numerator, so in both cases we'll double the denominator. So when we do that, we'll have negative 9 over 6 doubled is 12, and then negative 19 over 4 doubled is 8. And then I noticed that this guy right here I can actually reduce. So the midpoint here is negative 3/4, negative 19/8. So the answer for number 44 is the ordered pair negative 3/4, negative 19/8.